Don't pause. Press play. Don't pause. Press play. Don't pause. Press play. Don't pause. Don't pause. Press play. Press play. Press play.
Hey guys, this is Dr. Dang, and we've got none other than Devmarta with us. How are you doing, James?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you very much for having me.
It's good. It's a pleasure for me to have you here as well. So, you are a face that is very recognizable in the scene. A lot of people back here in India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka know you, and it's honestly going to be an amazing experience for me to host this, and I guess for every single viewer that we're going to be having for this video as well. So James, let's talk a little bit about you and Siege in particular, since that is mainly how people know you through Rainbow Six Siege. Alright, so quick questions. Who's your favorite attacker?
Who's my favorite attacker? I think this is going to change potentially with the new update with Shadow Legacy because of how like a lot of operators are changing like what gadgets. There's like you've got hard breach gadget now, and you got all the like the optics changing. One of my favorite attackers, Hibana, no longer has an ACOG.
Yeah.
I'm told. I haven't had a chance to play TTS yet, but I know Hibana's going to be up there. I play a lot of Bach. He's so much fun. I don't know. I'll say Hibana.
Alright, one attacker that you do not like to play against.
Blackbeard. It's not that I think he's overpowered. I'm not very good at playing him, and I don't mind playing against him that much. But yeah, he's just my auto ban because I'm never gonna play him. So
Yeah, same. I think a lot of people have really high KDs on Blackbeard, and surprisingly, I have the lowest KD on Blackbeard. I think mine's like the 0.3 or something. And
yeah,
I don't know, for some
get that.
reason, each time that I play Blackbeard, I don't even see the guy. He starts shooting, my paper shield goes, then my head goes, and that's it. So, yeah, Blackbeard. That's a nice choice.
Yeah.
Alright, favorite defender?
probably Smoke because I love having a shotgun. For a while, I loved Mozzie. Like a bit of Castle. I just love people with shotguns that also have like a good primary. Or in Smoke's case, it's the SMG-11, the secondary. So probably Smoke or Mute. Yeah, I'm a big fan of those.
That's nice. One defender that you hate playing against?
I actually don't really have many, honestly. Vigil is probably the main one, just because I like droning a lot.
Yeah.
And you need to be... like, I feel like a lot of the time when you're playing against a Vigil, they just like have this get-out-of-jail-free card against droning.
Yeah.
And yeah, that annoys me because it's probably because they're not very good at running away from drones, and so they just play Vigil. So
That's possible. And I think when Vigil came out, people really underestimated his ability. They were like, cool, he can hide from drones. How hard can it be to drone a guy who is basically not there? But I think over the years we've realized that Vigil's going to be a really strong roamer.
Honestly, when Vigil came out, when they announced him, I thought he was going to break the game. I thought he was going to be like the most overpowered operator ever. And I actually, funnily enough, thought kind of similar of Nook on attack, because I thought that her ability, like, especially because Nook, you don't get any like
Lines.
indicator that she's nearby, unless if you're playing on an Echo. So yeah, I thought Vigil was going to break the game. I think they balanced it really well with the like the fuzzy indicator that you get on your drone when you know he's nearby. But in ranked, when you're not super coordinated, unless if I'm playing IQ and you can like track them through walls, it's my favorite thing, tracking Vigils through walls when they think they're invisible and you just like headshot them through the wall. But yeah, unless I'm playing IQ, like I can find Vigil really frustrating because you have to have really good coordinated teammates to be able to find him and take him out.
Yeah, that's true. Alright, so favorite map?
You need to realize these are hard questions, man. You've chosen some hard ones. I don't know, honestly. I think a lot of people would probably say Clubhouse. I love the way that there's like a million different approaches to how you can, let's say, take CCTV wall. Like, I love playing Maverick. I love Maverick tricking the wall, then getting your soft breach to finish it off. But I also love doing like the Zephyr trick with a Thermite and Thatcher as well, with the concussion through the drone hole, or you can go below and double tap to kill the bandit, like while he's tricking. So I love the way that Clubhouse has so much diversity to it. In ranked, you don't always get to do those because you might just have like attackers who are roaming around, defenders who are roaming around. Like you don't necessarily get to coordinate it, but maybe that. I love Villa. Love playing Villa, especially on attack. Really fun, even though it's quite challenging to attack. Theme park. Yeah, I'm gonna say theme park. Because I think it's totally underrated map in the pool at the moment.
Yeah.
I think attacking that map is really, really fun.
I think theme park's a map where if you know exactly what you want to do, then attacking's not that difficult because you can really cut the map into sections.
Yeah.
But
100%.
if you don't know what you're doing and either the other team just has very good roamers, theme park is really a difficult map to play on.
The only thing I hate about theme park is that cash balcony run out that people always do.
Yeah.
Because like I always spawn near there, and you just have to like walk out of spawn while always aiming at the spot where they're gonna run out. Like you never know.
Exactly.
And, like they can run out super late, and they have full protection from the railing. So that's the one thing I dislike.
Exactly.
About theme
And
park.
you can run out from cash balcony. You can run out from the dragon window. You can spawn peek from that small teller's window. You can spawn peek the double door. You can even jump out of maintenance.
Spawn peek is pretty much covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
and even tellers downstairs and like the bathroom window upstairs and rotate back down through lockers. Like there's so many ways you can spawn peek that, and it makes spawning there such a headache.
exactly. So what I did was I started spawning teacups. I mean, you really need to go around the map to really reach the place. Yeah, but then it's better than having two brimstone charges in my back and being on the floor.
I get that. It's like on Consulate, I stopped spawning on the garage side or at the lobby side completely. And every time now, I just spawn admin because it's really easy to counter spawn peekers from that side. Like the way I usually go is you can go admin double door, you can go the windows. Sorry, you can go Visa double door, you can go admin windows. You could go copy window or you could go Visa window. And the only really spawn picks you have to worry about if you go that way are copy window and Visa window. And in my experience, I usually win those fights if someone's spawn picking there. They're usually just free kills. Plus, you can take out the spiral stairs camera from outside underneath the spiral stairs.
Yes.
So I almost always spawn there.
So I spawn gas station. That's like the spawn peekers haven. Yeah, that's the one that's right next to garage. So the only reason that I do that is because you have a dumpster that you can climb up on, and there is a pixel that you get onto your console double windows. So if someone's going to be peeking that, you honestly have a better chance of landing your shots than that guy, and it makes for some fun kills in rank. Especially the spawn peeking dog till now, who with his ACOG, who's going to just be sitting there for yes. So yeah,
Doc is my other least favorite. Well, I'll just say, Doc is my other least favorite operator to play against and with, because I feel like as soon as people play Doc, they feel like they have a license to just not play with the team sometimes. And when I'm attacking, I want to play against a structured team because that's the most rewarding way, I feel. And when I have like a Doc on my team, when I'm defending, I want to play structured as well. I don't just want to have a Doc spawn peeking every window, dying in the first 10 seconds. And it's always the Docs on your team that are dying in the first 10 seconds, and the Docs on the other team who are getting like 3 spawn peaks, because that's just how it works, right?
I think that was there in Pro League as well. When a player was really good, they would just upgrade him to Doc.
Yeah, promoted.
So we recently had the reveal for Shadow Legacy, and do you have some thoughts? Like, I mean, there were a lot of changes in the game. We have new sites, we have a new pinging system, we have the changes to the bomb, we have changes to, I think, MMR rollback, and even ranked elo gain and loss. I just saw a Get Flank tweet. So I'll quickly go over the things. One of them was that MMR rollback is not going to be more than plus or minus 200. So that's something that's good or bad depending on whether you play against a lot of cheaters or no. Another thing was that the minimum elo gain and loss is going to be 25. So I think after a point you're only going to be losing 25 and gaining. So I think that's a good thing. Apart from that, there's no more bomb pixel angles that you can have through the grills and through the metal struts that you have. And yeah, that's basically what I can go over quickly. So what are your thoughts on Shadow Legacy?
I think as a whole, Shadow Legacy is promising to be a really, really, really good season. I know a lot of people are joking about Rainbow Six Siege 2 coming out in a few weeks. I totally see that. I totally agree. In fact, as soon as the reveal happened, I went and I tagged one of my old mates who hasn't played Siege in a while because he was focusing on like uni and stuff. And I just said, "Hey, dude, you got to come back and play Rainbow Six Siege 2 when it comes out." And yeah, there is so much changing, and I think especially for returning players like my mate who haven't played in a few seasons, usually they're like, "Oh, what's the new attacker?" And what has maybe a couple operators have changed what gadgets, that secondary gadgets they have. But now it's like everyone's optics have been shaken up. You've got the hard breach gadget on the secondary for the attackers. You've got so many other significant changes, so I think it'll be intimidating for returning players a little bit, but Rainbow Six has always had that. It's always a game where you have to continuously learn new stuff. I'm really excited for it. There are a lot of changes that I've been wanting to see in a long time. It's actually funny. Zero's gadget, or Sam Fisher's gadget, the little camera that you can hit into a surface and it goes on, looks on the other side of the wall. This is actually an operator idea that I've been wanting to put into wanting to have in the game for like 2 years. I've thought for a long time. I think Bikini Body did a video about it as well.
I didn't really watch his new video, but I think that he did it. I think in his new video
I think he suggested a Blackbeard rework a few years, like maybe a couple months back, and he said this is what I would do for the Blackbeard rework, and it was basically just Sam Fisher's gadget. Or a stripped back version of it.
I think it was Zeronic's idea as well, where instead of the shield protecting his head, it protects his upper body. So you basically can still have your one-shot headshot mechanic, but if your aim's not as good as a lot of people aim at the head for, say, and Blackbeard really excels in places when people are just aiming for the head.
Not aiming for the head.
Yeah, not aiming for the head is going to make you pay. Which I think it's going to stop him from just being upside down repelled on every single consulate window for 7 minutes around. But it's really going to be changing an operator that kind of makes him like a shield, but not really a shield operator.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to derail the conversation too much, but my idea of a Blackbeard change is, I mean, I think that if if you're playing Nomad and you equip the air jab launcher, you get that little line. So defenders can see where you're aiming. Just add that to Blackbeard, and you can always see where Blackbeard is aiming. And maybe you want to buff the shield a little bit if you think that's necessary. But what this will do is it would mean you always know if you're going to walk into it, like, because Blackbeard's not a problem when he's peeking, right?
Yeah.
If Blackbeard peeks you, you're probably going to win that fight because the shield extends quite far laterally, and you'll get an advantage because you'll see the shield before he sees you.
Yeah.
You know he's peeking. You pre-fire. You're probably going to break the shield and get the headshot or even body shot him. Whereas he excels when he's just holding an angle and you have no idea. And the most frustrating thing is, like, you peek in and Blackbeard's holding a tight angle and all you see is the shield and you shoot at it, but because he was aiming there first, he kills you, right? So now Blackbeard, instead of just being about killing people, he's about denying angles. So if you see that Blackbeard's like laser or whatever it is walking that line, you know, okay, if I peek this, like, he will probably kill me even though I have peek advantage because he has that shield. But you know where he is. So instead of just like getting kills, he just forces the defenders to not move into that line. That's true.
That makes a lot of sense, and I think that would be a good addition to not just Blackbeard but to the game as well. So, all right. Your least favorite map to play on?
Least favorite map to play on? I don't know. I'm not going to say one of the casual maps like Favela because I actually love playing Favela in casual. I don't play very much casual, but every time we play Favela, I just pick Buck and like open up every wall. It's so much fun. It's hilarious. And on defense, I just get absolutely destroyed trying to do dumb things like with mirror windows and stuff. But on attack, it's quite fun to play Favela. But it's quick match, right? You're not trying to play seriously. But I mean, in terms of ranked, I think I would just look at the ranked map pool because that's what I play mostly. And of course, watching the Pro League and stuff, they play an even smaller map pool. I don't mind Chalet that much, the old Chalet, but I think that's kind of a defunct point now with the Chalet rework anyway. I don't mind Canal as much as a lot of people do. I mean, it's not my favorite map, and I still would rather play most Pro League maps, right? But even in ranked, you can play a map, an esports pool map. Doesn't mean it's going to play out like it does in esports, right? So just because you're playing, like, for example, Consulate's a great example. When you play Consulate in ranked, it doesn't mean you get to do the really cool stuff that they do in Pro League. It might just be, a frag fest or a spawn peak fest and really frustrating. or it might not be the playstyle you want to play. Another example is Coastline. Um, I'm trying to think through the map, the rank pool, and I can't think of a map where I say I dislike this map. Outback is a tough one. I know a lot of good drone spots and Vault Camp spots for Outback, so actually I don't mind it that much. Yes, it's very defensive favored. Yes, it's quite hard to take map control, but if you have a really coordinated attack, it's also really hard to defend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could just change some minor things, and Outback would actually be quite a fun map. So, yeah, I guess Outback is probably on that list, but I'm a pretty positive person. I don't really have like a.
I think I would have really liked Outback to be in Pro League, or at least some kind of competitive play. Maybe not at the highest level. Maybe just some kind of playlist where pros get to just go in, break open the map, see what happens, what are the angles. Because what has happened in ranked is that apart from a few content creators making angles like Coconut Brian, other people making angles in C4 spots, there's not really anything that you get to see. And pros honestly just discover things in maps that you thought was never there, but it was actually there from day one. For example,
yeah, I think that. Oh yeah, you can.
Yes, for example, there's the consulate angle in bathroom when you can open the hatch, break open a little bit of your piano wall, and sit inside garage and hold the yellow stairs. So that's something that I tried in scrims. It worked, and then when I tried in ranked, in the first 10 seconds, an Ash rushing through garage just got me through a wall bang.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. So yeah, with Outback, I would have liked to see some competitive play, but I guess it was not a map made for competitive, I guess.
I think it falls under the similar kind of banner as Border, in my opinion, in terms of how it plays out. There's a lot of choke points, and if the attackers play well, they can really cut up the map. But also, there's a lot of places where the attackers just can't get to the bomb site. You know, if you think about that Laundry Games bomb site, as long as the defenders are holding the dorms jump in and the bathroom jump in, then it's really difficult for the attackers to actually find anything. Like, they've got to sneak up piano stairs, which is an unfavored fight. They've got to try and come through piano doorway, which is an unfavored fight. Or there's games door, which, you know, you have to all choke up at bull, and you're probably going to get C4'd from underneath. Like, it's really challenging to break those anchor positions on an attacking side, unless you're really coordinated. And so the flip side of that, similar to Border, is if the attack really coordinates well and they flush out anchor positions, whether it's using a Capitao, whether they just hard breach really effectively and hold angles, whether they execute with smokes, or they use vertical like angles to take out defenders from below. Like, if the attackers do that, it becomes a really horrendous to defend.
Yep.
So it's funny that there's two sides to it. I would definitely put it in a similar state to like Border.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, that reminds me, I think Border is probably my least favorite map to play in ranked. And that can be really frustrating to play sometimes, especially on defense.
Yeah. I think Border's become like the Dust 2 of CSGO, where the map's so overplayed that even players who are not as talented as maybe your teammates, or you are not as talented as the other players on the other team, I think you can still put up a fight if you're really coordinated and really into the game.
Yeah. I feel like for me, my experience of Border these days, which is a lot of just queuing in Platinum Elo, and not necessarily with a 5-stack, is just people just play it like the same way they did on day one, except less coordinated because there's no mirror.
Yeah.
And people just like run around and on defense and then get picked off from long angles.
That's true.
But my favorite thing to do is like do the office hold that kind of came meta into Pro League, where you reinforce the triple wall, you have a rotate out of archives into office, that kind of thing. The armory bomb site isn't. I actually quite like attacking and defending that. It's just all the other bomb sites I hate, especially Vents is a massive headache.
I think Tellers is just the worst bomb site in the game. I think honestly there's no real way of defending that bomb site, except maybe
if the attackers play well enough. Yeah.
All right. So we've got a lot of new sites in the game, and we've got a new holographic site. We've got a 1.5x site. We've got a 2x site, which is the new ACOG. I think the only real ACOG that we have left is on the Boss G, and I think on a few of the attacker guns.
As far as I'm aware, and shout out to a guy named Alex Polo, who is a Spanish caster he did some fantastic graphics. I'm just going to bring it up on my second monitor right now. He made some fantastic graphics explaining like which operators have which gadgets and which optics. And if I have a look now on the attacking side, so yeah, like you say, some of the gadgets have changed. Some of the optics have changed a bit. So ACOG is now 2.5. I actually thought it was 2.5 already.
I think it's still 2.5 because in game
it is now, but I don't think it was before. That's what they said in the video.
I think it was just a typo because I went back into the game and I checked, and on ACOG it says a scope that gives you 2.5x magnification.
Oh, okay. Maybe they just got that wrong in the video, who knows. But what it says now, according to Alex Polo's tweet, is so you've got the 1 point. So I mean, from least magnified to most magnified, you've got all the one-time sights like your holo, red dot, etc.
Yep.
And you've got 1.5 times, which seems to be the most prevalent one. It's on a lot of guns. On the attack, it's on basically everyone. And then you've got the 2 times, which is the next level, and that's on a bunch. It looks like it's still on kind of most weapons, and I guess that's kind of the substitute for the ACOG. And you've got the traditional ACOG at 2.5, which is only on a few. Mostly it looks like it's on just LMGs and a couple of assault rifles like IQ's AUG, the AR-33 from Thatcher, the ARX, and then the 3 times, which is like the most zoom one, and I think it's similar housing to like the old Capitao LMG scope, and that is just on DMRs by the looks of it.
Yeah, I saw this tweet as well, and one more thing. I don't know if people paid attention to the damage stats of Sam Fisher's rifle, but it has the exact same damage stats as the AK-12. So we basically just have another AK-12 on attack.
But it has 26 rounds.
It has 26 rounds, but with one shot headshot and the way that thing melts people, you're probably still good to go for 3 gunfights. I think it's not a F2 that's gonna go through its mag before you can blink, but I think it's gonna dish out. I mean, I don't have to think about it. It's going to dish out a lot of damage, and honestly, it's going to be interesting to see how. I think that I believe that the rifle should get enough because. Experience from playing against the AK-12, I've realized that the gun was really downplayed when it was just on fuse. I mean, we knew that the gun is really strong, but seeing it on ace, especially a hard breacher with smokes, it's really showed us that 4 bullets with a blazing RPM, I think 850. I believe
3 bullets will kill most people.
Yeah, so
well, 45 damage.
I think that. I do like the direction that it's going to be taking the game. It's going to maybe change the balance between attackers and defenders towards the attackers, because you have better guns, you have better optics, you have better gadgets, and not better gadgets, but you have gadgets that make more influence on the physical map than defender gadgets. And that's something that I would really like to see after the test server ends, whether we see a nerf for Ace, because 3 Selmas, he's really great at breaching walls, and that gun on top of that,
I'm actually I'm curious now, what does Ace get in terms of optics? He doesn't get the 3 times, he doesn't seem to be listed as 2.5 times. Okay, he gets the 2 times by the looks of it, so that's basically like the ACOG. So he gets the 2 times. He doesn't get 1.5 by the looks of Alex's graphics. So that's interesting. You have to choose whether you want like a proper zoom 2 times or just a 1-time sight. I personally actually just run 1 times on it. I think it's so good. It really saves you in close quarters because it just melts people with 2 or 3 shots. I mean, if someone's lit, they've taken a tiny bit of damage. Like, off the top of my head, 45 damage per shot, right? At 850 RPM or something. If someone has taken 10 HP of damage and they are a 3-speed 1 armor, 2 bullets will down them. 2 bullets at 860 RPM. That is like, it literally takes like almost no time to just down them and finish them. So really good, especially in close quarters. But with Ace, I agree with your sentiment that I think things are starting to push into the attacker's favor. I think out of Ace and Malusi, I know a lot of people are up in arms about Malusi being OP. I disagree. I think, yes, it's more bulletproof gadgets, and that's always a struggle, but I don't think she's going to have the impact that Ace is. I think Ace is definitely, in my view, the more powerful of those two. So we had Steel Wave come out with an attacker that outweighed the defender, in my view, and then this season we have an attacker. So in theory, yeah, we should be seeing a bit more slant to the attackers, especially now with the new hard breach gadget as well, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of defenders that had ACOGs, like Doc and Echo, losing their ACOGs or for a smaller magnification sight. So I definitely do expect to see the attackers having a bit more success. I don't see anything wrong with that, especially because everyone's complaining about the 20-second meta. I think that, in particular, the thing I'm really excited for with Sam Fisher or Zero is information gathering on attack, because there is so much information gathering on defense, whether that's actual observation tool gadgets like hacked drones or Valkyrie cameras or black eyes or bulletproofs, or hands-free info like Malusi, Legion, other traps. And I think that seeing this slant back into the attacker's favor will maybe negate the fact that Mute and Mozzie are still quite strong at denying drones, and a lot of people, especially in ranks, don't know how to use their drones.
Yeah.
You've now got 4 extra gadgets on the attack that can help with info gathering, because previously the only info gathering gadgets on attack, aside from drones, were the globals like Jackal and Dr. B and Lion. And I think everyone kind of agrees that isn't the most enjoyable way to info gather. I think info gathering from observation tools is much more fun.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm really optimistic about this change. And look, if it does slant too much in the attacker's favor, just wait 3 months and we're going to get another defender. So,
or we might just get the Tachanka rework as well.
Exactly, we might get the Chankaruk and another defender.
Yeah.
So,
I was hoping that they would announce the Tachanka rework along with Sam Fisher. I mean, that would just be an OG Siege character and an OG Tom Clancy's game character. Yeah. It would just put the cherry on top of the cake. But I think that a lot of people said that Tachanka was really overpowered with the rework that they did, and they were trying to dial him back. They didn't want to...
All we've seen is like 20 seconds of footage,
yeah,
right?
I mean...
They've had like a year to change it since then, so who knows what it's actually going to be like. I would reserve judgment until we actually see the finished product.
So, yeah, alright. So let's get back into what we had for you, which is you are a Pro League caster. You are also a Pro League analyst. A lot of people want to do the same job that you're doing, being a caster, being an analyst, working in the game. Do you have any kind of information that you can give to our audience which might help them maybe focus themselves onto the path that finally leads them to being a caster or an analyst for not just Siege, for any other game?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things you can do. I think it's really difficult to say that there's a set pathway, because if you want to go and become an engineer, or you want to go become a doctor, you kind of know what you have to do, right? You go and study it, you go and get an apprenticeship or a graduate program or what have you, and you follow that till you get that. If you want to become a carpenter, you train, or you find a mentor, you do an apprenticeship, you try and follow that pathway. There isn't really a set pathway with esports. It's just like if you want to become a pro player, like there's no set pathway. Get good, know the right people, and then try and get on a team, right? And it's similar with casting, right? There's a mix of lots of things that have to go your way. There's a lot of luck involved. That's not to say it's not possible. I guess I'll just start by putting some context down before I start getting into, I think, what you need to do. So for me, I started... I've been a gamer all my life. I've played a lot of RPGs, played a lot of shooters. I think the kind of 2 games that got me really into gaming more seriously were Halo on the original Xbox, Halo 1, Halo 2, and I used to play a lot of Elder Scrolls games on Windows. So RPGs and shooters, and just passionate gamer all my life. And then I moved to PC actually because I wanted to do Skyrim modding. It wasn't even for FPS games. The Xbox One came out and it didn't have backwards compatibility, so I was like, I'm not going to spend all this money because I can't afford to buy one if I don't sell my Xbox 360, and that means I can't play all my Xbox 360 games. So I invested in a PC instead to do Skyrim modding, and eventually in 2016 I found Rainbow Six. I'd heard about it a lot and I kind of kept my eye on it. I'm not the kind of person who usually just finds out about a game and buys it straight away. I like to wait, and so I heard about Rainbow Six before it came out, and I always came from like a sci-fi shooter background with Halo, and Gears, I guess, is kind of sci-fi. And I wanted to play some more kind of modern, semi-realistic shooters. I played COD a little bit. I jumped on PC and I played the Battlefield 4 beta. Played a bit of Battlefield 4, and I was like, "This is cool. I want more." Like, I know I'd seen destruction in the Battlefield games, but it was quite different.
Yeah.
And I heard about Rainbow, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll get it." Me and my mate, and we'll see how we go with it. And yeah, it was 2016, the week that Skull Rain dropped. I started playing. It was the week that BattleEye had first gotten introduced to the game. Favela, Capital, Caveira. I was a complete noob, and I just played the game. Lots of fun. Within 6 months, I turned from being like just a guy who'd never played like an esports games. Like, I used to play and like try and win, you know, when I was playing Halo or whatever, but I'd never played like really seriously, got really sweaty. I'd never really cared about having like a fancy mouse or a fancy keyboard or a high refresh rate monitor. And in 6 months, I went from just trying Rainbow Six to actually watching esports for the first time. I was watching the Season 3 finals and the 6 Invitational, both of which Continuum won.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I got hooked. Really enjoyed the way, in particular, people like Kix would talk about what's happening, like there's strategic, there's tactics to it. And I've always been a bit of a brain over aim kind of guy. I always like to think that my mind was a better facet that I had to me than my physique and my you know, even when it comes to like reaction times and stuff. So I liked the idea that I could outbrain my opponents, and I liked learning about that from the casters. Also really enjoyed Panky, who was casting at the time. It was Kix and Panky were the two guys I really liked watching. And yeah, I came from a background in music, performance, played in a few bands, and I was like, hey, this casting thing, it's pretty cool. Like, you know, I feel confident on camera. I could try this. Like, it'd be fun. So this was like rolled around to 2017. I got more and more interested in Rainbow Six and in the prospect of casting. I started try out for some teams in my local region. I started to try and reach out to people who casted. Like, there was a community, R6ANZ community Discord server, which had a bunch of amateur casters in there who were just community casting like weekly go-fors, because there was no pro league in ANZ at the time. And yeah, I hit them up and I was like, hey, can I cast with you? And they were like, okay, here's how you cast. You download this program called OBS and you have to ask permission for a game. And I'm like, well, I can't stream because I don't have fast enough internet. And so I had to cast with them, and I would only be able to be like a secondary caster because I couldn't actually upload the stream from my computer. So I just did that, community casts, tried out for some teams, and slowly worked my way up, I guess. I did more and more community casts. I got good feedback from the community. And then Pro League rolls around, and we had Pro League qualifiers. There was a time when there was so many streams going along at the same time, so many casters volunteering their time to cast. I was one of them, and I got NBN around this time, which is the faster internet, the program we had in Australia, which got some faster internet, so I could finally stream from my own computer. Just kept doing those qualifiers and all this other kind of stuff, and then the first APAC finals rolls around, season 6. This would be October in 2017. And previously there was only two casters that really did anything more serious. They'd just been picked up for Pro League. They would like go to the studio occasionally. But now they needed more casters because there was an 8-team LAN event. Teams flew in from Japan, Southeast Asia, Korea, and Australia, New Zealand. And they needed 2 more. So myself and Cthulhu got brought out for that. It was my first time doing anything, you know, remotely professional, but still I wouldn't call it professional because, you know, I was just an amateur caster who'd gotten a really cool opportunity. And this was when I realized, wait, maybe I can actually make this something. So I'd actually dropped out of uni because uni is expensive. I thought it was probably not the best. I was studying music performance, probably not the best investment of my time, and I wanted to really go hard and see if I could make this esports thing something. So I decided I wanted it to be the best caster I could possibly be. I wanted it to be so that ESL and whoever it was, when they wanted someone to cast these events, they would just go to me. Like, I wanted to be that guy that would always say yes to the opportunities. And it was just a gradual process. You know, next gig rolls around, they say, hey, do you want to do this one? I'd say yes. I would fly out to Sydney, and then I became a mainstay. I did like every APAC Pro League finals, every qualifier, every little event, and so they just became more and more well known. I tried to work on my personal brand, so I tried to promote myself more, whether that was through Twitter or whatever. And then, years passed. I think it was like a year and a half. Eventually, I got called up in end of 2018, start of 2019. So this is what, a year and a half later or something, of just doing community casting and various other projects like podcasts and my YouTube channel. Two things happened. Ubisoft Australia I got a job with them in marketing department, and I got asked to go to the Six Invitational 2019 as an analyst. And at that point, I kind of had, I guess, made it globally. My face had been in front of more people, which was really good for my brand. I'd gotten a chance to prove myself and show, hey, I'm this kind of new guy in that you don't necessarily know me, but I've been actually doing this for 2 years. And that was kind of the next step in my professional career. And my job with Ubisoft was actually where I finally became, financially independent thanks to esports, and full-time esports, I guess you could say. Another year and a half passes, and the Pro League goes away, and we have the new European League, APAC North League, etc. And I leave my job with Ubisoft Australia to go and work full-time or commit full-time to face it for the European League, APAC North League, etc. And that is me today.
That's an amazing story, and hopefully
it's like 10 minutes of me just monologuing. I apologize.
No, that's fine. That's
a long story.
That it is a long story, but then it gave us a lot of insight into how things really worked out for you and how they can be similar or different for other people as well. So a few things about Pro League or Invitation, basically competitive play of Siege. Are there things that are different in Siege competitive play versus any other kind of competitive play that you've seen for some other game? Is there something that's different, or is it basically just the game's different?
I mean, every esport has differences and similarities in game, right? Some esports have big teams, some esports have small teams, some esports, the players make a lot of money, some they don't make a lot of money. Sometimes the players can be full-time, sometimes the casters can be full-time, sometimes not. Rainbow Six has been developing really fast, so we finally do have, players full-time, some of them making really good wages. Same with the casters, right? We have some casters who are full-time, some are making really good wages. We have a lot of good content creators that are full-time. I think another big difference, this is just in the esports industry in general, different esport titles are supported in different ways. If you look at, for example, Counter-Strike, it's primarily third-party tournament organizers such as ESL. They run an event, and that kind of, they're not sponsored necessarily by Valve. It's not Valve who sets out and says the developers or the publishers of the game who say we want this event. And the opposite kind of the spectrum, you've got something like Riot or Ubisoft. Riot with League of Legends, they're very much like, we want this to be, we want to have this, so we want to own this whole program. Ubisoft is quite similar. They say we want the European League to be ours. We're gonna get another company, of course, to come in and help with that. In this case, Face It, and ESL helps with the APAC North League. So I guess that's one of the biggest differences between different esports. How the tournaments themselves and the publisher interact, like how the tournament organizers and the publishers interact together.
I think that's why we see a lot of buffs, nerfs coming in because of the competitive play into the general play style that we have. I think the Goyo nerf is example, the Lion nerf is example of that. So Lion was broken, that's a separate story, but competitive play in Siege really does affect the way that the common person plays the game as well.
For sure. We're really lucky that we have the developers who are so eager to help and support the game actively. I think a great example is the fact that all of the big updates to the game, all of these significant news that applies to everyone who wants to play the game, not just esports players, that happens during the esports events. Let's be honest here. The Rainbow Six is like a big bubble, right? Inside that is a small bubble, which is esports. Esports is a small part of Rainbow Six as a whole, and this is just like esports industry globally is a small part of the gaming industry globally. And the fact that Ubisoft chooses to incorporate every core Rainbow Six announcement into an esports event, I think is a great example of how much they want to support esports, because that boosts the viewership. We have things like Twitch drops, which
Yeah.
help boost the viewership, encouraging people to try out esports. We have some ads in game as well. And yeah, I mean, there's always more that the developers could do and the publisher could do. But I think they do a great job and they really do want to make the esports scene successful.
I find it surprising that even after all of this that Ubisoft does for the game for esports, people find ways to nitpick about things. They were like, Twitch drops, oh, they are bad. They're just trying to inflate the viewership so that they get more sponsors and all of that. They don't realize the fact that it's making a person who probably wasn't interested in esports go watch it. I mean, fine, that
Yeah.
guy might just watch it for the charm and say good day after the stream, but then there might be another guy who's like, cool, I want to try this out. Maybe he eventually makes it to the pro league as well.
Yeah, and I think I can't remember really well. It was back in 2016. I think how I got to know esports is I was playing Rainbow Six, just playing casual. I wanted to get better. I wanted to I started to realize, wow, there's a lot here that I can learn. Wanted to learn. Started watching people on YouTube, people like Serenity17, people like Macy J, and I started watching them and learning about learning the tips. Just they were just normal players playing the game just like me. And then I started to learn that, in my recommended feed, I got like esports stuff, and Serenity17 mentioned something called scrims, and I was like, "What's that?" He was playing in a competition, and I learned what esports was, and that got me into it. So it was me just being an ordinary player and trying to access little baby steps. I went from being a normal player to being someone who wanted to learn to improve to being someone who was exposed to esports, and then I realized I loved esports. And there's a lot of people who can make that similar kind of transition.
That's something that happened with me as well. So I started off, I was not really good at the game. My aim was bad. It still is bad. My game sense was there.
I feel that.
So I had a senior in college who was very good at the game. I mean, he was a guy who would play at Plat 1, Plat 2 and maintain a 1.6 KD. So I mean, he knew what was going on in the game. So he's like, yeah, you can come play with me. And then one day after class, we're just sitting and he's watching the Pro League. I didn't know what that was. He shows it to me and he's like, yeah, you can watch this and you might pick up a lot of stuff. And then me being me, I watched Pro League. I started doing the same stuff that I learned in silver lobbies, and somehow it was working. So I was like, yay, I learned something. I'm getting better at the game. And I think, yeah, that's slowly what got me into the competitive scene of Siege. So India, the Indian subcontinent has been added to competitive play. What are you expecting out of this region?
I think it's really hard to say at the moment exactly what to expect out of South Asia. I think it's important for people, especially people outside of South Asia, especially people outside of APAC, to understand that South Asia didn't just start playing the game yesterday, right? It's just like when Brazil got introduced to the Pro League, or I should say Latin America, just like when APAC got introduced. Like, these guys have been playing since day dot, since the game came out. Some of them probably have more hours than, Fabian or Pengu, right? They're passionate. They just didn't have anything to play for, right? Or they didn't have much to play for. They might have had a weekly cup here or a weekly cup there, but there was no big prize money. There was no way that they could justify investing the amount of time as people have who compete in the Pro League or in Challenge League or in T3 leagues overseas. So I think that's important to just keep in the back of your mind that people in South Asia have been playing the game a long time, but of course the skill level might not be it's very unlikely that people who invest less time into the game are going to be as good as people who have played for season upon season. Right? That doesn't mean they can't get there as well.
Yeah.
And we saw that with APAC. In the first season, APAC got introduced to the Pro League. The two teams who went to the Pro League were dumpstered. Albeit dumpstered by some of the best teams in the world, right?
Yeah.
But they did get destroyed. And then over time, we got to see that more experience, whether it's at international events or whether it's just that there was more support coming in for those teams, that players could afford to dedicate more time to the game. They had support staff helping them. And we started to see, APAC teams making a huge dent into international teams. I remember Six Major Paris, like Mantis, who became Cloud9. Actually, I think they were called Element Mystic at the time in Paris. They beat the now MIBR roster, who was playing under Immortals. This is a team, Latin America had competitions for a really long time. They've been in the Pro League longer. This is a really good team that was taken out. And, Norengo did exceptionally well, so did Fnatic at that event. In fact, I think Fnatic beat Black Dragons at that event, which then went on to become NIP. I might have got that the wrong way around, because there was one event where they lost them, and then the next event they beat them. I think it was they lost them at SI 18, and they beat them in Paris. Anyway, what I'm saying is, there's so many competitions and so many matches, I can't keep them all in my head. What I'm saying is, it can take time. And I think that's what we're going to see with South Asia as well, right? We've got teams like Mercenaries and Union, and, these guys, in particular Union Gaming, have been around for a really long time. Sparko's been very vocal on Twitter for years about the Indian subcontinent and South Asia. I feel like everyone knew his name anyway. And finally, they've got this opportunity to go global, to make it to 6 Invitational. Union's already locked in some SI points. And it'll take time. I wouldn't be surprised if, for example, the APAC South playoffs were to go ahead prior to the whole COVID situation changing how the major worked here. But let's say we had seen, in fact, it wouldn't have been Union, it would have been Mercenaries. Mercenaries, Knights, Akami, and Wildcard. Out of those 4 teams, only 2 could progress to the APAC playoffs. I wouldn't have been surprised if Mercenaries came 3rd or 4th in that event, but I haven't seen them play against teams like Akami and Wildcard and Knights. So it's very difficult to know. And sometimes being the underdog and the dark horse can give you some favor, because people don't dedicate as much time to learning how to play against you. So very difficult to know. I think it's safe to guess that they won't necessarily be as strong as, for example, the strongest APAC teams right out of the gate. But I wouldn't be too surprised if, within a season or 2, they start to scrim each other more. They start to really step it up, and we can see them making an impact and being, in the top teams in APAC.
I think one thing that limits a lot of APAC teams from learning about the other teams is just basically distance between countries. I mean, Fnatic could or may want to scrim against UG, but just because you would be playing at 150, 180 ping, it just doesn't make sense that you would scrim at that versus EU or NA, where I think majority of the people would be playing at 50, 60 ping for scrims, which is, I guess, fine.
It definitely makes a difference. Being able to, the better competition you can play against in practice, the faster you will learn. And that's something that will always set back APAC, sadly. But hey, the fact that APAC teams can beat really big and well-funded teams from other regions despite that is just amazing. I remember Milan's Season 9 Pro League finals. If I recall correctly, Fnatic got just as close to beating Empire as Dark Zero did. As Evil Geniuses did. And Evil Geniuses was regarded as the second best team at the time, but Fnatic almost beat Empire, right? And Fnatic had, they're from APAC. They didn't have the fun, obviously a big org behind it. Norengo almost beat Empire at SI 19 when they were the second best team in the world. So I think that just because there are these disadvantages in the regions like APAC and particularly South Asia doesn't mean that they can't punch above their weight.
That's true. I remember I was watching the Pro League. I'm a big Fnatic fan because when I first watched any kind of esports competition, it was the CSGO Fnatic team, which was the OG best team that you had back then. I got myself a Fnatic mouse and a mouse pad, and I was watching the Pro League. I was like, they're so close, just go through. I wanted to see an EG versus Fnatic final, but then it didn't work out. And then in the final, I was on the ropes. Do I support EG or do I support Empire? Because I'm also a G2 fan. So EG and back then Penta, not really teams that get along very well. I mean, the players sure do, but the fans don't. And so yeah, that was a roller coaster. All right, quick last question. Do you have any tips for pro players or casters, analysts coming out of this region, the APAC South?
Well, I don't think I'm very well qualified to comment on pro players, as I'm not one myself. But I think something that's universal, if you want to get anywhere, particularly in esports, be able to get along with people. I think that's really important. Have a positive attitude, and put in hard work. But also, be aware of your well-being. You don't want to. You have to be careful if you're spending countless hours per day, at your desk, not getting a lot of exercise, not getting a lot of sunlight. Take care of yourself. Maintain healthy relationships, with your teammates, with other people outside of esports. and put in some good work. Identify where you need to improve. This applies as a player and a caster. I think one of the things that really made the difference for me is I was always looking to improve, and I would watch back my VODs sometimes with other people that I respected their opinions, that I trusted. I found myself a mentor, Jordan Mays, Elfish guy, who works for ESL Australia as the head of talent. Really, he helped me learn so much and helped me improve. So find yourself a mentor, multiple mentors, friends whose opinions you respect, who can give you feedback. Analyze yourself objectively, see where you need to improve, and then put the work in so that you can improve and aspire to be the best. Not in a way where you want to pull other people down, but in a way where you want to elevate yourself, so that you can do a really, really good job. Not because you want to be the best, but because you want to be the best version of yourself.
That's true. So with that, thank you, James, for coming for this podcast. You've taken out time twice now. The first time we weren't able to make it materialize, but yeah, that was great having you here, James.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate you having me along. I'm sorry for ranting a little bit. It kind of went on. I don't know if I answered all the questions fully, but
I got the answers.
Hey, good. Well, yeah, I mean, I hope that you continue doing this show. I think it's fantastic to see more content coming out of the South Asia region. As we see more teams getting opportunities, as we see more activity going on, I think it's great if we get a spotlight on the region itself. So yeah, I'd love to see more episodes come out. Go for it. Do it.
Thank you. Yeah, that's gonna be it, I guess.
Press play.